Greetings, mi amigos. It is Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, and 6 Pacific. And we are reassembling here for a enclave of our own unique nature. We are talking about A Course in Miracles. And of course, this book is an astonishing event in human history. It was undoubtedly the most profoundly inspired book that has ever come along, simply because it has assembled the wisdom and the knowledge from all of the great spiritual masters from the beginnings of written history or even oral history. So it condenses everything. You can spend decades bouncing around from, various disciplines, various avenues of how to approach God. You can go to India and get lost in, Hindu philosophy or Buddhist philosophy. You can go to the Middle Eastern regions and check out the Abrahamic traditions. You can go into the native and find all sorts of tribal wisdom, but it's all broken up and separated and spread out. And the Course in Miracles has come along and put all of the content of truly enlightened thinking together into one very condensed and somewhat accessible instructional guide for how to climb out of limitation, how to climb out of a sense of separation, a sense of not belonging and not being a part of this magnificent process that is ever unfolding, which is God. So one of the things that we're working on right now, this is a third edition, and what we're looking at is the idea that there is nothing apart from God. And the way that we are going to access our own union within God is to recreate a thought system that is actually something that contributes rather than distracts from our recognition of our unity with God as source and as totality. So as we're moving forward here, we're beginning to have a little bit of a shake-up here. The first couple of episodes, we approached that idea of non-duality. And the last episode, episode 2, we looked at the first 2 lessons in the workbook. And so now we're going to continue along with that theme, because what we're doing is we're getting rid of our old thinking patterns. We're getting rid of the psychology of who we are. And that is a necessary first step, because we invented who we are. And the truth is, God, when he created us as his likeness. So in truth, we are this perfect spiritual being that is eternal, omnipotent, omniscient, and at all times a part of our Creator. And our relationship is so seamless that there is no distinction between the Creator and the created. So all of our old thinking patterns are the ones that have come to the conclusion that there is something apart from God. And what we're beginning to do now is to go into that process of realizing that there is no such thing as God and, there is nothing in the universe that exists apart from God. And the only reason that we are imagining the separated universe is because we fell into a dream state. We never actually left our heavenly home. But in the dream, it would appear that we have, and that we are vulnerable and driven by fear, and ultimately flawed in every imaginable way. So as we're going to launch into this next section here, I'm looking up in my screen. It looks like I'm personally experiencing some sort of rapturous experience, and to a certain degree I am, because I feel like I gain every time I open the book, A Course in Miracles. So workbook lesson number 3 presents us with, again, another shaking up of our belief structure, of our foundation. And in order for the Course to even begin to make sense to us, we do have to be willing to create a new thought system and to approach it from an angle, not so much of wonderment, although there's certainly a lot of wonderment in the journey we take with the Course. But what we are trying to create is a thought system built on discarding the ego's ideas and beliefs and re-embracing the ideas, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions of the divine that exists within us. So workbook lesson number 3, I do not understand anything I see in this room, or on this street, or from this window, or in this place. And this idea is something that once we start to initiate this type of thinking system, all of a sudden we experience a little bit of a shift in our dimensional imagery. And for me, and for a number of course students, the first 5 or 6 lessons in the workbook can be a little bit disarming, because what happens is you're actually undermining all of your old belief structure. And as we do this, it gives us a new sense of freedom. So there's these opposing factors going on. The old is trying to cling to us, but the new is opening up, and we're beginning to realize, oh, this gives me more options. This gives me a greater sense of freedom. So the point of the exercises is to help you clear your mind of all past associations, to see things exactly as they appear to you now, to realize how little you really understand about them. And that's the place where life is always experienced, is in the now. All of our memory and all that we associate with the objects or the people, the conditions around us, are based on the past. And what we are being called to do is to release the past so that we can fully experience this moment in the present in its pristine condition. And once you start venturing out on that ledge, you all of a sudden discover a freshness about things around you, things that you would normally have overlooked because you had this preconception, oh, I know what this is because I was working with this or doing this yesterday or the day before or 20 minutes ago. So we're really trying to pull ourselves into living life in the present moment. And that in itself brings about some astonishing revelations. It helps you to see things in an entirely new light. And it gives you opportunities and options to deal with life in a more moment by moment pace. And as a result of that, you start altering the past. You literally start diminishing the power that the past has on you. And then that leapfrogs into the future and conditions the future. So by living more closely to the moment, we begin to heal the past because we let go of our prejudices and our belief system about the past. And that alters the vector of our life. So all of a sudden, this little shift of who you are or who you believe yourself to be begins to move off course and onto a new course toward a realm that is filled with more light and more harmony, more truth, more beauty, more options. And you do start to see the rewards of working with the course literally immediately after you initiate into this. So that third lesson is a very powerful part of this staging of our identity, presenting ourselves to ourselves in a new way. So we're going on to workbook lesson number 4, and it says, these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, or on this street, from this window, or in this place. Unlike the preceding lessons, these exercises do not begin with the idea of the day. And these practice periods begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. And again, this causes us to slide out of that tendency to always be wrapped up in this chatter dialogue going on within the mind. And most people are dulled to the degree that they're not even aware that there's this constant inward dialogue going on. And as we're starting to stop and observe it, you begin to realize how moronic a lot of these thoughts are. I mean, this utter gibberish that the mind is engaged in to keep you engaged with the mind. So there's the beginning of this recognition in this lesson, lesson number 4, that what we are doing is keeping ourselves in an ongoing battle that is based on nonsensical thoughts that are constantly going through our mind. So when we recognize that these thoughts have absolutely no relevance to what is happening in this exact moment, you know, unless your house is burning down and your thoughts are grab the kids and the dog and run for the backyard. Obviously, things like that are thoughts that are part of the immediate moment. But most of the time, we've just got this ongoing chatter, and it never really leads anywhere. It never really comes to any positive conclusion. As a matter of fact, most of the time, it diminishes us, because our thinking is what generates our experience in the world, our experience in life. So if you're always thinking about this silly thing or that silly thing, or who did who on you know, your favorite romance television program, then you're giving power to everything that is nothing. You're just a part of this constant implementation of nonsense. And that's why the world often seems to make no sense to most of us. As we're looking around, we're thinking, recognizing, my God, this is insane. Look at what's going on over here. Look at what's going on over there. But we never really come to that point where we recognize that we are the ones that are generating this. And the way we are generating this is by having all of this silliness going on inside our mind at all times. So later on, we will begin to move in the direction of owning what's going on in this process, the ownership of the idea that a lot of our thinking is meaningless. And so what has happened is it has created a meaningless life experience for us. So we're trying to accomplish things, we're trying to pull our life together, we're trying to be supportive of the people we love, we're trying to create, you know, new opportunities, put in place a foundation for growth, and at the same time, all of this brain chatter is creating a distraction. It is literally generating experiences for us that keep us from attaining those things that we are really seeking to experience in life. So it's you know, again a very amazing process that we are engaged in. And the big thing is for us to embrace these ideas in the workbook, because as we're starting to create a new thought system that is based on sanity as opposed to the madness of the jibber jabber, we are re-identifying ourselves with a part of who we are that has lain dormant literally since our birth, or since a very early period in our life. So if we can reclaim that part of our innocence and that part of our identity that experiences the world in the moment, that comes into the world with childlike wonder and moves through the day-to-day events in life with a sense of calm and being at peace and not being afraid and not being alarmed by the things that are appearing around us, we can actually reclaim our empowerment. We can reclaim our ability to create a destiny, to create a life experience that is based on truth and not illusion. So it's an ongoing and truly elevating process that we experience with A Course in Miracles. So, and I'll real fast mention that we've got people from Spain and Ontario, Canada, North Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of people plugging in here, and I do appreciate the fact that you're showing up. And if you have any questions, definitely put them in the chat, and I will try to address them. So as we're continuing to progress here now, we're going to look at, we're going to step away from the workbook for just a second and go back to the text of A Course in Miracles. And essentially, the text is a more dense understanding. It presents us with a more enlightened or a deeper perspective of the actual lessons that we're working with in the workbook. So we're going to start off here with chapter 1, the meaning of miracles, and that's the principle of miracles as they apply to our life. And the first thing is, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. This presents us with an interesting thought. It takes the idea of the meaning of a miracle away from the concept of turning wine or turning water into wine, or healing a broken bone, or raising Lazarus from the dead. Those are the peripheral, the exterior events that are a secondary effect of the actual miracle itself. So as we're looking at the idea of a miracle, we do have to stop associating it with some physical manifestation, because that is not what the miracle itself is. Now, the miracle itself will have physical manifestations very often. And there are other times when you simply won't see the manifestations because they will be lost in time. But your act of love and forgiveness and acceptance of someone can have the immediate effect of rectifying problems that you've been working with your life. And it can also have the effect of touching other lives. And that is, the really profound aspect of how the miracle works. Because every time we're able to replace some idea or thought or belief or an accepted fact in our own mind of separation and hatred, when we can replace those ideas with the idea of love, then we are generating a miracle. We are surrendering our prejudice, our fear, our limitation, and allowing the Holy Spirit or Jesus or Christ or God or however you want to envision it, we're allowing love to be replacement for the dysfunction and for the bitterness and the enmity that we have been dragging around through life for decades or lifetimes. So looking at that first statement, there is no order of difficulty in miracles, comes back to that sole source of what the miracle is. And it is very simply being able to let go of our old belief and to bring love into the circumstances that we are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Number two, miracles as such do not matter. The only thing that matters is their source, which is far beyond elevation. So again, we're getting to that level of looking at a miracle and realizing that it simply is what it is. It in itself is really nothing. But when we replace any element in our life that is apart from love, then we are nullifying a belief system that has caused us and others pain. And quite literally, what this is alluding to is the idea that when you replace something with love, you are replacing it with God. And as Jesus said in the New Testament, God is love. So again, think about the power and the immensity of these concepts. You are becoming that which is capable of manifesting God. And that's a pretty lofty thought. But every time you bring not your love, but the love of God that exists within you into a situation, you have suddenly shifted the conditions. You have changed the game. You have made God manifest. And that is such a celestial idea, such a celestial concept, that it goes beyond any other aspirations that we might have for life. You know, if you're stuck on that level of, I want to be a millionaire, or I want this, or I want that, you're really missing the point of what life is. Life is an experience of God in the moment. And every moment that we experience God, we are able to step out of our limitations. We are able to step away from being drawn down into that earthly condition where the only possible outcome to our existence is death. So this is bringing us back up into eternity. This is bringing us back into a state of being where we recognize that we are eternal beings, that we are part of something that cannot be broken, it cannot be destroyed, it cannot be overwhelmed. And the only thing that draws us away from that keeps us from that recognition, is our reliance on the body to be who we are, our identification with the body. So the first two little tidbits here from the meaning of miracles has already started to force us to think of things in an entirely new way. The third paragraph here says, miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. And that's reiterating that idea that God is love. So every time something comes from love, it comes from God. Because God's eye looks lovingly on all of creation. It sees beyond the flaws that we have imagined. It sees beyond the error that we have imagined to be real. So we're going back to source with each opportunity that we have to experience a miracle. And a big part of this process is surrender. You get to that point where you realize that you no longer are having any kind of fulfillment in life. And when we reach that point, we start to struggle. We start to look around us. And once we have identified the thing that is missing, the element that is not there, we start struggling in that direction to try and attain that. And the bottom line for all of us is that our disconnect from God is what is causing us our sorrow, our pain, our fear, and our limitation. So as we're working our way through this early part of Course in Miracles, we're beginning to recognize that there is a identifiable agenda here, that we're beginning to note that the things that we thought we wanted were replacements for the thing that truly will allow us to grow out of our limitations and to grow out of our difficulties and our struggles. And the Course in Miracles, once you start to launch into it, it becomes, for many people, an obsession. You really become very deeply immersed in this early stage because you're beginning to realize, wow, I have been looking at life through a set of glasses, a set of lenses that have given me real tunnel vision. And I can only see light in this far distance, a tiny speck. The truth is, as we take the binoculars away from our head and start to step out of our fog bank, we begin to see that light is everywhere. Light surrounds us in all directions. So A Course in Miracles gives us the opportunity to maximize our experiences in life. And, that's the beauty of the simplicity of what is going on. All of the old theology, all of the old schools of thought have all these rules. And, you've got to go out and climb a mountain and roll a boulder up a hill and do these rituals naked in the woods at midnight. And all of that is nonsense. And the beauty of our return to our truth is that it is magnificently simple. It is so apart from any kind of complexity that at times you think, gee, this just seems to be too simple. And that's the beauty of the return to God that we're all ready to experience, is that God never made things complicated. Our egos did. But the truth is that God made it a very easy journey for us. And we really have to stop being distracted. So real fast here, we'll finish off with this fourth line from the Principle of Miracles. And it says, all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. Wow, that's pretty cool. That basically is telling us that we don't have to go to a mystery school. We don't have to dig through muddy waters. We don't have to put a lot of effort into the process. All we have to do is trust and listen. And the inner voice, that inner resource that gives us the instruction that takes us to the oasis in the desert of this life, is going to present us with options. It's going to show us the way. It's going to give us an avenue out of our misery that will give us immediate results. So it looks like we're down at the bottom of the half hour here. Hope you got a little insight from the sharing that we did this evening. Next week we'll pick up with more lessons and more imagery and dialogue from the text of A Course in Miracles. If any of you would like to have some kind of commercial or some type of immediate communication with me, shoot me an email I'm at onefeather, WONEFEATHER, at gmail.com. And the website for our series here is called themiraclewithin.org. You can find that in cyberspace, and it's a resource that has a lot of information about A Course in Miracles. And you can find the text available online. Just put in A Course in Miracles and nose around, and you'll come up with the text of the entire series of books that are the compilation of A Course in Miracles. So get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and I will be back in 1 week for another discussion of A Course in Miracles.